How you doing? This is Vlad from Generation 9. Good to meet you, man.
Yeah, good to meet you, yo.
So yeah, I really want this interview. I want the new generation that follow bodybuilding to really, a lot of them know you, but I feel like a lot of them might not know the whole story. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of them might not know me. Yeah, I think kids nowadays they don't really do this research. They start from what's relevant now. They really don't dig into their history on what bodybuilding is all about and how it started and where it's at now. How did we get there? Nobody we can really. It's really hard to analyze where you're going if you never know where you've been. What's happened in your past. So yeah, it's a little different nowadays.
Yeah, but your story is amazing. You've competed in one of the best eras in bodybuilding, I think.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was one of the toughest. I came through. I just had good people around me that showed me, a lot of the do's and don'ts, and how to really get through it. Back then, people were really competing. I mean, they were really getting it, and I was fortunate enough to to be around the Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Ronnie Coleman, and even got a chance to even be with around Kevin LeBron for a while. So, that era, coming through with the Masters and all that, I think I came through right when, you know, Nasser or somebody was kind of filtering down. And then, between, I think you know, 90s all the way through the 2000s, I mean, the competition was way different than it is now.
Yeah, and Marcus Rule, Ronnie Coleman, all these guys. It was an amazing era.
Oh yeah. Marcus Rule was a tyrant. That dude, he was a cool guy though. He didn't talk a lot, but when he stepped on the scene, he was like Godzilla stepping into a movie theater. You know what I mean? Yeah, big guy.
But even with that competition, you've accomplished a lot. I mean, you were top five at Olympia, top five at Arnold. You definitely you were up there with the toughest, meanest competitors, and that says a lot, for your level of competition.
Oh yeah, yeah. Being the top five in the world is, I mean, it's nothing to shake a stick at. But I was trying to win. I mean, I came through. In my mentality was, and it was taught. It was embedded in me to be the best. I mean, you go for the throat. You know what I mean? You go for first place, and if you end up being, second, third, fourth, seventh, ninth, top 10, then okay. But I was never complacent with the placings. I was always trying to beat the physique I presented, and beat everybody on stage, whoever they put me in front of. And so hopefully that fight is still in these guys. I need to watch it a little bit more, but yeah, that era was no joke. In the Olympia stage, that was the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. That was never taken lightly at all.
Yeah, for sure. I saw an interview with you from early 2000s where you're talking about competing, and you really looked at it as a battle on stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I talk to a lot of guys now, and they kind of like, well, I only care about what I look like. You know what I mean? When you were competing, you were like, I'm going there to kick this guy's ass. I'm going after Dexter. I'm doing like you were really battling.
That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, it's a competition. So anybody that says, well, it's just, I wouldn't say, it's just ignorance. They don't know no better. Nobody's taught them that, they think Melvin Anthony's the best poser in the world. He gets up there and he shakes a leg and he dances. Man, that's not the posing. That's the icing on the cake. The meat of it, the entree, the battle is when I get on stage, I'm killing whoever's in my way. And that goes with my diet. It went with my training, it went with my cardio, no matter how much they thought I was cheating. I let people think I cheated all the time. Yeah, I have my little reward meals, but at the end of the day, I got on stage to win. And so when a guy says, "Oh, well, I'm just competing against myself," a guy like me, I'm gonna whoop your tail every time. Good. You worry about you because I'm coming to take your back out. And my best friends, Dexter's one of my best friends in bodybuilding, but he knew when I showed up on stage, no matter what we laughed about on that stage, me and Dexter gonna go at it. I'm kicking your ass, and you're gonna have to kick mine to get me out the way, or I'm gonna take your money. And it's just a different way of training, and so yeah, it's just naive. The guys that say that.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about. I mean, a lot of people consider you to be one of the best, or even the best poser of all time. And talk about that, and what kind of your routine is very different. It's very different from other routines. What inspiration behind it?
My inspirations, and even the guys that I train now, I do posing, clinics and I teach. It's not about being Melvin Anthony. It's not about being marvelous. It's about almost like how can I say? You create a meal for the judges to eat. And so when you prepare your meal, you put together your seasonings. You put together your spices. You cut your herbs up. You get decorative vegetables that you want to put on your plate, and then you get your sides. And you get it all sautéed, and then you throw it on the floor in front of them, expect them to eat it. That's posing. You want to present your physique, and you want to feed them to the where they can enjoy it with a fork, but it's presented correctly in front of them. But posing routines, back even back then, some of the guys didn't take it seriously. So I was always known for, even in prejudging, I knew how to fight. I studied the guy next to me. I was never just worried about, oh, I'm just worried about me. Nah, hell no. You better worry about the guy on your left and on your right, because when they call you out and put you into that ring, you better be ready to fight or you're going to get knocked out every time. So, I learned and I was taught to create, better body parts every time I got on stage, know what my best body parts were, and know the guy standing next to me. And if you don't know the guy you haven't seen, be able to assess his physique in seconds and go, dang, he got legs, he got hamstrings, he got glutes. Oh, his lower back. So I got to know which actual glutes I have. I got a smaller waist than his. So when we turn around to the back, I'm gonna make sure I flare my lats all the way out and make it and expose his flaws. These guys are not, you know, as well as they could be taught. So I was one of those guys that in posing, when it came down to being the best poser in the world, it all boiled down to your routine against my routine. And if they had a best poser award or best entertainment award, I was going to get it because it was either 10, 15, 20 grand extra. So I'm going to take it from you. And so me being the best or being said I was the best is only because I beat just about every guy that was in front of me when it came to posing, you know. And so I never walked around saying I'm the best poser in the world. I just made it my point to entertain the fans, show the judges why I'm supposed to win, and create something that even the guys that don't like me had to still applaud me. That was my goal every show. That's what made me great.
I spoke to Kevin Levrone recently, and he told me he never practiced his routine. He just went on stage and kind of just live with the music. How much did you practice before your routine?
I practiced for months, years. Before a show, I would start creating my routine in about 9 weeks out. I would already have what music I wanted to come out to. I would already have, the poses that I wanted to portray, and I have them written down. I want to, front of bicep. I want to do a classic bicep, and I want to do side chest, and I want to do on this shot. And I would go over my music. I would already create it before I was there. That way, when I got on stage, it was easy to go through it. It was like walking. Kevin, if he did that, that's him. I never got away with that. Kevin is a phenomenal bodybuilder. So anything he did, they were going to applaud. But also, you could always see when a guy's thinking. While he's up there, he can be lip syncing, but then he's thinking at the same time. Okay, now I think I want to do a back up bicep. He paused and he do it. There's a difference between my routines and theirs. It was always, um, for me, I tried to be flawless. And if I made a mistake up there and put my foot in the wrong spot, you would never know it because I knew how to hide them. I would knew how to hide my mistakes in movement.
Well, I strongly recommend everybody that's watching this to go and watch your routines on YouTube. 2005 Arnold Classic, Iron Man shows. I mean, those are real performances.
2001, 2006, Mr. Olympia, yeah, Australia, all of them. I used to turn up when I used to go to Australia. Ooh, Australian fans, them guys, they, and in New York here, but Australia, them fans go crazy when you do a routine. If you do something that they like or you do something to get them going, they go crazy. And that was my best time along the battle was the night show. You know, that was I look forward to creating something and then presenting it just to see how loud I can get them to get.
Do you think Kai Green got inspired by your performances? Do you see a little bit of you in his performances?
I'm not sure. Kai, Kai is my boy. That guy right there. I am also a fan of his. When he came out, I watched him. I watched him compete, and I watched him, move on stage, and I was like, okay, that guy's got that. He's got that thing. It's a gift. He's got it. Natural talent to hear and feel music. Um, his creation. Sometimes people would say, "Oh yeah, maybe that's a little much," but I always enjoy it. But at the same time, I was also trying to whoop his behind when he got up there with us, because I knew he was to be reckoned. You got to battle a guy like that, And John Brown was one of the first guys to tell me, he goes, "You got that dude right there. You better watch him. You want to fight that dude right there." Yes. So I knew that even in the posing, um, his emulation of certain poses that he had, he was a studier of bodybuilding. He watched the Ed Corners. He watched the Sergeant Brays. He watched the Arnold Schwarzeneggers. He watched the Berto Foxes and the Sergio Olivas and the Lee Hayes. He studied how to move. So when you do that, you could see it when you see a guy pose. So he had his own twist, but all that stuff was all handed down from the guys before us.
So I wouldn't say he I was an influence. I wouldn't know. I never really asked Kai. I just know Kai is an what do you call that? An eccentric. He's very he thinks differently than a lot of people. He's a creator. The guy can paint. He can draw. And just talking to him, you can tell. Okay, some people go, "That's strange. He's strange." He's not strange. If you listen to what he say, he's a deep thinker. So people like that, when he created something, he was always going to come off the cusp because that's his personality. Where my personality is, I come more from the street. So, I was into the street dancing and the pop locking and all that. And I wanted to be in the newest dance that was out there at the time. But my creation, as far as my slow part, I always really wanted people to enjoy my physique. So my first minute and a half, 2 minutes was always geared towards displaying my physique, the best ones that I had, my classic poses to show why I should win this show. So when you talk about being the greatest poser, I don't think I've ever lost a posing routine. I don't think I've ever lost as far as the award. So that's what I guess people say, hey, he's the greatest because I never lost. And even back then they say, well, you never been in front of nobody. Well, Kai Green's better than you and Darren Charles is better than you. Well, we all was at the same show at the Arnold, and I got them all. They were talking about Lee Priest is going to win it. He's talking about Kai Green's going to win it. They were talking about Darren Charles is going to get it, and all these other guys. But at the end of the day, I came out with a trophy, so that made me undisputed. But I do enjoy Kai Green. I've always enjoyed his physique, and we always just talk about, hey man, when I come out, man, you better be ready. And we used to laugh about it. We used to go over to Kuwait, and we've been over to these different places together, and me and Kai used to laugh about it. Like, well, come on with it. You better hope you go on stage before I do, because if you don't, I'm gonna get you. We used to laugh about it. So if that's one thing that's missing in the sport, these guys don't talk. A lot of these guys they don't call each other. They're so I would say selfish that some of the I don't even know what name to call it. They're just so focused on themselves that they don't know that there's things that are happening around them that they can glean. There's information that they can glean off each other. So you can only be great by yourself if you only have the information that you got. But if you call, a Flex Lewis or you call a Phil Heath or you call a Dexter Jackson, you call somebody you guys are talking about it, you might get some extra information that you didn't know about. Some new herb that came out that you didn't know about that I'm taking that you not, and you wonder why I keep whooping your behind. So that's things that we had in the '90s that they don't have. I don't see them doing today. I was just at Chris Cormier's show and I never saw it.
Outside of you, who do you consider to be the top five posers of all time, excluding yourself, that you admire?
Uh, Besides myself, those
You being number one.
um, Kai Green for sure, Darren Charles, um, and you talking about in this era or in that era?
Any era.
Um, a guy that's close that really can I think that I would put in there would be Terrence Ruffin, and this new kid that I had the opportunity to work with a little bit, Sabor Favors. I can't say his name, Sabor or Sabor. He's good. So those guys I would throw out there as being some of the greatest guys. In my area, yeah, it would have been a Darren Charles, it'd been a Kai Green. Um, Anybody else that stands out that came close? Mm, that's probably about it. That'd have been five guys I would consider great.
What about Sean Roden? Because I saw somewhere that you helped him in 2016, I believe, for his
I
routine.
did. I did. I helped him. He's a natural. Um, but you know, yeah, I could throw him in there for sure. Sean Roden, he was a good mover. He had good balance. Yeah, he knew how to flow between his transitions. So yeah, he would. That probably would cover it then. Sean Roden, Kai Green, Darren Charles, Terrence Ruffin, and Sabor. That'd be five for
Sure,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned John Brown. Again, a lot of people don't know who that is. Can you tell people who that? Because I understand he was your mentor, right, originally.
Yeah, man. To this day, man, he still mentors me on things. John Brown won the Mr. Universe 3 times. He won the Mr. World, I think 3 times. Traveled all over the world, and he was known for putting on a show, as well as portraying his physique. So that was where I got my base. He was the guy guiding me, telling me, "Hey, don't do this. Hey, do this. Don't do that. Hey, train this way. Don't eat this." And when it came down to to diets and stuff, but John Brown was one of the greatest posers probably ever stepped the stage. He was actually the first guy that really started to mix music together and blend the routines. They didn't back then. They weren't allowing guys to play more than one song. They were wanting to play what they wanted to play. So John really pushed that issue with the athletes to be able to play their songs and mix tapes together, making mixtapes. He was the first guy to do that.
Was he a coach?
Um,
Was he your coach in the beginning?
he was my coach. He was my coach for man for years. Pretty much, he had his hands in, giving me advice probably all the way through my career. Even when I had different gurus, I had Chad Nichols and I had a few other guys. I had Hani Rambod, training me, helping me. And I had another guy who was from Greece, Kano
Wasn't
Fresh.
wasn't wasn't Milos your coach at one point?
Milos helped me a bit too because I was in Milos's gym. So like I said, I had a good team of guys around me at all times. Milos helped me for the New York. So um, I had good influences from guys. But John Brown was the main guy. I mean, John Brown had his influence with Vince Taylor and Sean Ray, train those guys. He even helped Milos back today. Talking to him about training. John Brown had Victor Richards. And all those guys. He told me when I was competing, he was like, "Man, you could be a pro easy." I was like, "Huh?" I didn't even know what I had. He goes, "Man, you listen to me, you'll go pro. You do the right things, you train the way I tell you to train, you're gonna go pro." So he was one of the guys that influenced me to do that. But back then, he was before his time, and he's telling me, "Yo, I don't know why they like you so much, man, because you a little cut up boy, but they like you." And I'm like, I don't know why either, but I'm gonna use what I got to get there. You know what I mean? So those that don't know, John Brown was one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. Yeah.
Definitely, I definitely want to remind people of those guys that people don't even talk about now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
He's
what?
easy.
Why did you pick bodybuilding to even get into? I know you're working out probably at a young age, but why did you want to actually go on the stage and you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't, when I was coming through, I didn't even know that was accessible. I used to sneak in the store. They used to have, those racks, where they had all the magazines, and then before they started putting plastic on them, the Iron Man magazine was out, and the Flex magazine, all that was in the corner. And the first guy that I seen, I was like, man, I want to look at that. I opened the book up and I seen, Sergio Oliva, and I seen, Berto Fox and Rich Gaspari. You know what I mean? I was like, man, that dude's ripped. They don't even look human. I mean, so I started to study and started to look at it, and they just kicked me out the store. And after a while, they started putting plastic around the magazine, and I used to go in there with a razor blade and zip, zip them and pull them out and read them. And yeah, man, I had a niche for it. I just enjoyed looking at muscle. You know what I mean? I didn't think I could be like that, but I was like, yeah, I want to be big like that. Me being picked on as a kid, I was like, man, I want to be like that. I want muscles like that, man. If I get that, and seeing a Robbie Robinson, I thought that was unreal. You know
it
what I
was
mean? That was
amazing. Yeah.
amazing, man. The Black Prince, the darkest, he's black as night, but God, look at that muscle. My goodness, I like that. You know what I mean? Seeing Sergio Oliva with his hands lifted up like that, it looked at crazy. I'm like, what do you got to do to be like that? And so that was my first initiation to bodybuilding, was seeing it in the magazine in the store. And then that's when I started to go try to find out, how do you get big like that? Started looking at guys, and for me, like I said, I was from my neighborhood, was kind of, so I used to walk around guys getting out of prison. I'm like, hey man, how you get arms like that? Well, come on, let me show you. Start showing me. And there was a guy that I used to follow around. His name was Stephen James, Stevie J. His name is Strong now, but that guy right there, man, he got out of the military. He's like, man, you ain't gotta. I used to think you gotta go to jail to get big like that. You know what I mean? Because that's what you only can respond to what you're exposed to. So he's like, man, you follow me. Come on, take me to the gym. And he took me to this gym called Spectrum Gym in Riverside, and that was Ted Williamson's gym. So I used to start, going in there, and he gave my first experience to some hardcore weight was in that gym, you know. And who would have thought that years later that that guy would judge me? And he remembered me. He goes, "Yeah, you used to sneak your little badass in my gym." I remember you, And his mom used to make protein shakes for me, and give them to me and tell me to go back to school because I started ditching, in the eighth grade. Started ditching just to go to the gym. And so Ted Williamson's mom used to make me a shake, and then she'd tell me, go ahead and work out, but then you go back to school. She'd send me back to school.
Was dieting easy for you, or was it a challenge?
It was a challenge for me. I ain't gonna lie. I like to eat. I enjoy tasting food, and so dieting for me, what kept me straight was I had a reason why I was doing what I was doing. Just like in boxing, you have guys that were boxing and people can talk whatever crap they want to talk about. Pacquiao, that was one of my favorite boxers. It wasn't Mayweather. I like Mayweather too, but Pacquiao was my guy because he fought to eat. He didn't fight for the money. To this day, he don't fight for the money. He fights to feed his family, to take care of his nation, his country. That's a different kind of fight. So a guy like that's always dangerous. And that's what made me dangerous. I was lifting weights to, pay my rent, lifting weights to get ahead, to have a car, to buy a house. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of. It wasn't for the fame. I enjoyed people clapping, but I'm like, man, if I'm gonna be in this, I gotta make money, because bodybuilding overtook my whole being, my whole life. I couldn't have a regular job. I had to work at the strip club in the front door, being a bouncer. You know what I mean? I had to do odd things to make money to even be able to compete, because in order to compete, you have to indulge yourself. You got to get all the way in there, and that's the way I got into it. So that's why I dieted so well, is because I said if I don't get first to fifth place anywhere in there, ain't no money. And so my whole entire athletic career as an amateur, you just got a trophy. So I had to learn how to make money. I had to work at night, had a couple of jobs, and then I had to pay my way through until I got my pro card. But once I got that pro card, oh, not only did I have a gift of having a body that I was born with, I trained to eat. I didn't train to just, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna go out here and, wow the crowd and get first place and get a trophy. Nah, man, I was training to eat, feed my family. Different.
Once you were a pro, did you find it to be lucrative to be a bodybuilder? Because I was talking to Paul Dillette recently, and he told me that back in the late '90s, early 2000s, it was very lucrative to be a bodybuilder because you'd sell pictures. It was no social media back then. You know what I'm saying? So
There
like,
was no social media. Yeah, you had to sell your pictures and your hats, and
but
I
was
had the
it?
opportunity.
What did you find it to be lucrative when
I
you were a pro?
did. At first, my first contract that I got, it was about, I think, like 28,000. But I made money off my guest postings. I made money off my endorsements. And so, yeah, it was lucrative, and they paid for you to show up somewhere. I got $1,000 to show up at a store. You know what I mean? Sit there for an hour and sign autographs. You got money to show up at these shows, and your guest posting was $3,000 to $5,000 a guest post. You know, I earned that later on, but back then, yeah, it's way more lucrative than it is now. And I don't know why. Some things have changed. I don't know what, because when I left the sport, I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, it was very lucrative. I sat there and watched. I remember Paul Dillell was he used to stay with Lee Priest. They used to stay together, roommates, right? And so I go over his house and I'm sitting there and they're like, hey Melvin, man, your physique, man, you're a dangerous guy. And Paul Dillett's got that high voice. Melvin, man, you're a dangerous bodybuilder. Always coughing. He used to have bad asthma, right? So I'm like, yeah. She says, yeah, here, go on, give me that envelope off the table. I have to open up my check. So I go over and I grabbed the envelope, and he opened that envelope. I seen $8,000. I'm like, 8 grand? What? A month? Yes, that's just one of my checks. I'm like, in my mind, you rich. I want to be. I want. How can I get that? He goes, man, you have to be a businessman. You have to negotiate. You know. And so yeah, it was very lucrative then. Sure was. I don't know how it is now. I don't know how they do with the contracts now. So I couldn't tell you if it's lucrative or not. But I know then we were getting paid.
I got a crazy question for you. Getting ready for this interview, right? Were you a manicurist at one point? I saw a crazy reality show that you appeared on, Blind Date. What was
Yeah.
that?
I was on blind date. Yeah, they still show that, man. It's funny. Yeah, I went to a manicuring school. There was a big Vietnamese community where I used to stay when I was growing up, and one of my buddies, Ton, he's like, man, I'm about to open up a nail shop, man. You need to go get your license. You know what I'm saying? Get my license. He's like, yeah, you come to the shop, man. and do nails, man. You don't understand, man. The girls be up in there. So I'm like, really? All right, when I go, I try to see if I can do it. And so I went, and I was one of the first guys to pass the course. Yeah, and I went up in there, I was working for my buddy. Yeah, you'd be surprised what a chick tell you when you're rubbing her feet. Ooh, they tell you everything. Yes, buddy.
That's
So
so
yeah, I did
interesting.
that for a while. I had my manicure license for years.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was a good episode, man. I was watching it actually yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when I had my blonde hair, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Cisco look. I had my hair dyed platinum.
yeah. So I wanted to ask you also because the Iron Man magazine, right, used to be really big, and also the Iron Man show was really big, and then
Huge.
it was like Arnold, obviously Olympia, Arnold, and the Iron Man, and then that kind of disappeared. What do you know? What
Yeah.
happened to the Iron Man show?
I don't know if they just stopped having it, but like Iron Man had the best lighting anywhere. They brought in special guys to do that lighting, man. And I'm telling you, when you stood on stage and you was in shape, ooh wee, that was the show to do. And it was always close to the Arnold, so it was always, a couple weeks right before the Arnold, so you can go in there and then just kind of like diet all the way through to get to the Arnold. The Iron Man was one of my favorite shows to do because it's in my backyard. You know what I mean? It was right here. It's in the LA area, Manhattan Beach, man. They used to, man, sell out. I'm talking lying around the corner. I mean, man, and that was the first one I went to. The first Ironman I went to, I was able to meet Berto Fox, who I'm a big fan of. I mean, whew, I thought that guy was a giant, but when I met him, he's like 5'2". I was like, he was sitting on the sink, I swear, and I'm like, hey John, that's Berto Fox. Oh, you want to meet him? I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, come on. So John Brown takes me back to the backstage, and we walk back there, and he's sitting up on the sink listening to his radio, and he jumps off the sink, and when he jumped off the sink, he came to like my chest. I was like, the hell? You look so much taller than magazines, but I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't dare say that to him. That's Berto Fox. You know what I mean? That's the guy right there. And I was able to meet him. He's a really humble guy, man. So yeah, the Iron Man was a big show. It was a big show to win. When you seen guys winning it, Vince Taylor, I seen win it. I watched Flex win it, and then being able to compete in that show in my first pro debut, man, hell yeah, that was the show to do. I really don't know what happened.
It's disappointing it just vanished, but that was a really huge
They
show.
need that's a show they need to bring back. I mean, if anything for bodybuilding, man, the Iron Man that's the show right there. It's definitely a great show. Yeah, the Arnold was just a whole another level. They all had their uh, attributes. The Arnold used to pack a house, man. And the Olympia was just the Super Bowl. That's the Super Bowl. So it was always the Arnold Classic because it's Arnold show. With the Lormers, and then back then the convention center was always packed too. You know what I mean? When you showed up, man, just to be on that stage, you were Michael Jackson, bro. You step out that bus and people used to go crazy. That's Melvin, and to me, I used to giggle like, why are you screaming at me? That's like, come on, man, I'm just me. You know what I mean? And nah, man, you're this and you're that, and when you're bringing tears to people's eyes, that's crazy, bro. I mean, to me, I'm just like, wow, it was so much different. I don't know how it is now because I've only been to a couple, but yeah, the Arnold had its draw. And then when you got to the Olympia, well, the Olympia is the Olympia. But those three contests, yeah, man, yeah,
Were you there that when Jay Cutler finally defeated Ronnie Coleman?
that was 2000. When did Jay win? Was it six or was it set? No, Dexter won in sec. Yeah, 2006. I was on the stage. Yeah, I was fifth that year, 2006. I was there. I watched it happen. Yeah,
Because
unreal, man.
Ronnie was such a dominant force in bodybuilding. So when he finally lost the title, I mean, did you like backstage? Did you expect it to happen? Was it surprising? Like what was going on in your mind at that time?
In my mind, I was trying to get in the ring with him. So my mind was, I'm trying to get him. I was trying to beat him. But Ronnie, man, and Jay also. It's like those guys when they came out, even the warm up, you're like, damn, man. If they call me out, it's on and cracking. And I'm just, what I'm saying, try to use my best attributes to beat him. But I wasn't surprised. Like, in this sport, you can't be surprised about what goes on. The judges have a hard job up there to do. And that year when he won, um, I wasn't surprised. I congratulated him and congratulated Ronnie. But in that at that time in your mind when it's going down, you're not thinking, if he's gonna win or if he's gonna win because you're trying to win. So when I got my placings and went all the way up and you to watch the top two, for it to go down, I wasn't a ha or a boo. I was just like, wow, well, judges have spoken. You know what I mean? But Ronnie was one of the most dominant forces to ever step on that stage. I mean, I've watched Jay Cutler get defeated in his head when he was actually in just his condition or even my better condition, and I'd seen him lose it in his mind because Ronnie was so intimidating. Ronnie had that kind of 3D muscle. When you looked at him, it's best for you if you got a weak mind. You shouldn't look at him when he's warming up because if you do, you're gonna lose here. When you lose here, your body gonna change. And I watched it happen. Yeah, I used to run back and tell Dexter. You can ask him, hey Dexter. I was a recon man. I went in everybody's room, looked at everybody before the show. I was a recon man because I wanted to see what you had before you put it out there, so that I knew what I was dealing with. And so I would come back and tell Dexter how well he was going to do or how bad he was going to do. I was like, or who he had to fight or who he didn't have to fight because Dexter wouldn't do what I would do and come back with all the information. And I watched it one year where Jay freaked himself out. Ronnie was out there doing a cable crossovers. That's when they had all the weight equipment out there in the middle of the floor. And Ronnie was like, yep, yep. And he was out there doing cable crossovers. And he had his little tank top on. And he takes his tank top off and he's doing, I watched him like go from this to this in like a minute. I swear, I look at that. I ran back and I said, Dexter, you gotta come look at this, man. So when I'm going back, I see Jay come out the room. Jay comes out the room and he goes to the right to go warm up. And I'm watching, Ronnie do his third or fourth set. And Jay looked at him and his kind of shoulders kind of slumped. I knew right then he gonna have an issue already. You should have never watched him because Jay was looking phenomenal, and he took a look at Ronnie and was like damn it, here we go again, a battle. So sometimes that Ronnie had that effect on people. If you watch him, you're gonna lose here unless you got a strong mind. Yeah, he had that. He had that. He had that crazy muscle, man. Retarded.
That's insane. The only real criticism I heard about you was I heard like commentators during your routine talking about your conditioning. Have you heard that criticism about you before?
Oh yeah, they were always trying to get these shredded glutes. They started like emphasizing shredded glutes. My glutes were never bad. They just weren't lined up across all the way across the back. Some guys would kick that leg back and boom, they'd have that, them lines. And man, I tried for years. I never figured out how to get it. You know what I mean? I think the closest I think I came to was like 2006, and then when Dennis James helped me in at the Phoenix Pro, when they were saying that I wasn't gonna do well. Sean Ray was, I'm the well, he might be the dark horse if he does this and this, he do okay. And I went through that my whole career. I was never really looked at as the front runner, even when I won the Night of Champions. But that was my knock. They always said, hey, right around the hamstring tie-in and glutes, Mel's got to be a little tighter in his conditioning. Glutes don't mean you out of shape. Because if that was the case, I would never be the top five in the world. I had everything in else. I just had a problem getting shredded back there. Maybe there's the estrogen settled there. I don't know. Me and Chad, we could never figure it out. So yeah, that was my knock. That was what I focused on all year. It's like, man, how can I get my glutes to come in? How can I get them like Dexter's? How can I get them? Some people have it, some people don't. You can try to get close, and so I never did figure that out. You know.
Hmm. But you still managed to get the top five bodybuilder in the world, which
Oh
is
yeah, yeah, and win some shows.
of
So
course.
yeah, it was actually it was a good run with me. I enjoyed my time on stage, that's for sure.
How did you enjoy working with Chad Nichols?
Chad, man, Chad's a good dude, man. Chad, he's like family, man. Chad Nichols is a great guy, man. Very knowledgeable, knows what he's talking about, and he ain't trying to kill you in the process. You know what I mean? He was one who I know paid attention. He had a lot on his plate. He had a lot of athletes, but he always came to each room and spent the amount of time he needed to get me right. You know what I mean? Even through my injuries, Chad was always there. You know what I mean? Even when he had his sons Dom and Morgan running around, firing pin, he still made time for me. He still made time for Ronnie. He still made time for Vic. And all he went to, he just knew what he was doing. And I overheard some guys trying to knock him, talking about he was trying to kill people. And the man, stop it, stop it. Some people just doing too much. Some people, when a man tells you, if you were my trainer, you told me to eat 6 ounces of beef every day because you want to put on 10 pounds, and I'm over there eating nine, and then I got some problems with my stomach. You told me to eat six, and I chose to eat nine. So you can't blame it on the guru, blame it on yourself because you chose to do that. And that's what I try to tell people across the board with supplements, with roids, whatever. If he tell you to do one and you do six and you get sick, it's your fault.
Well, I think often gurus do get the criticism, especially right now, in today's society.
They they blame it on the guru, but say but we don't know what the athlete doing neither at home. You know what I mean? We don't know what he's doing extra or what he's adding in that he's not telling the guru. The only can guru can only deal with the information that he's given and what he's giving the athlete. So I never did blame, Chad for me placing, fifth instead of first. No, we had a plan, we had a program. I stuck to the program, and this is where we went. And every show we got better and better and better. He was the reason why I stepped on stage in 2006 and was in that top five, and I could have been first through fifth, and nobody would have complained because I looked that good. And so yeah, Chad, man, he's one of the best in the game.
Did you ever feel like a conflict of interest because he was training obviously Ronnie Coleman and other guys? Did you ever feel like he's kind
Nope,
of, you know?
I never did. You know why? Because I was fortunate enough, like I said, to tag along. So after we leave my room, I was able to go right to Ronnie's room and watch what Chad did with him, and was never different. There was different processes in the amounts of carbs or eating and all that, but he catered per athlete. It wasn't I eat six apples and Ronnie gonna eat oranges because he's better. No, if I was able to eat that based upon my process and what we were trying to accomplish, then it was everything was customized for each athlete. It was never no what do you call it when you just across the board everybody gets the same stuff. You eat oatmeal, you eat oatmeal, you eat oatmeal. You eat 10 ounces, you eat 10 ounces, you eat 10 ounces, and then watch how everybody's body adjusted. No, he cookie cutted every diet for every bodybuilder that he had, even with the amateur. And I watched him do it. He's very transparent.
When was your last show? And after what show did you decide to retire from bodybuilding?
My last show was I did my last tour with Dexter. So after I did the Phoenix, I went to the Arnold, and then I went to Australia. I think I went to New Zealand or somewhere. And then yeah, after I came back, I didn't really go back on stage after that. That was 2010. Yeah, so end of 2010, I won a show going out, in the Phoenix. And then I went to Europe. Not Europe. I went over to Australia, competed, and I just did my little tour, and then came home, and that was it. That was it for me.
How did you make a decision not to ever compete again?
Well, actually, the endorsements made a decision for me. The companies that I was with, they were starting to do a change. They were starting to bring in younger guys, and in this sport, it's relative to what they think is the best for their company. So when I started to lose some of the endorsements, I'm not gonna spend 10 grand of my money to get ready. It wasn't I wasn't willing to do that. So I kind of stepped away and just kind of started doing my own thing.
You had an issue
Yeah.
with the company, right? You had like some kind of a lawsuit or something with the company. It was a big problem, right? You had to deal with it, right? Is that true?
Wasn't even a he was well, Sean Ray made a big deal out of it, but it wasn't a big deal. It was basically when I being an athlete, athletes have to protect themselves, and if a company wants to use my likeness and do without my knowledge, I want to get paid for it. And if you don't pay me for it, then you have to go through a legal process, and the legal process said what they had to say, and I got awarded. So it doesn't matter if it was a dollar. Right is right. So you wouldn't have Kobe Bryant letting Nike use his picture without paying for it, right? But that's what they wanted to do me to do, and I was like, nah, we're not gonna do that, and we're not with the company, and you're using my likeness, and that's just what it is. So it wasn't a big deal. I just expect to be treated fairly and do the right thing. And if you don't, then that's not for me. It's time for me to move into a different process and let them work it out. And that's what happened. Yeah.
So, as an outsider looking in, right, it looks like when you retired in 2010, you kind of left the industry. A lot of guys, even if they're retired, they stay within the industry, they do different things, but it seems like you kind of distance yourself from it. Is that accurate or not?
Yeah, it just I went through a lot of changes in my mind, because I didn't prepare myself correctly. And so I tell the athletes that I work with now, man, if you got a job and career, keep it. Compete, but don't let it engulf you unless you have a get out plan. I didn't have one. I thought I was going to be able to compete until I was 50, and I wasn't ready. I didn't prepare myself. I didn't save my money. I should have listened to John Brown because he kept telling me, man, buy a house over here, rent it out. I was like, why? I ain't gonna live in it. I didn't. I didn't get the end game. The end game is you want to take what you make. You take the lucrative because the sport I believe is still lucrative. You can still make money. You got to put it somewhere. put it into a trust fund, put it over into into stocks. You got to use it to where when you're done with the sport, then you can still live. You can still make money. You can still have your money make money. You have to, because there's no retirement in bodybuilding. And I wasn't looking for one at the time. I was just trying to compete. So I did things that I should have been more prepared for. I should have bought more real estate. I should have, tried to put my money in stocks. And, I dibble and dabble in it, but I took it out. You know what I mean? So I didn't prepare myself correctly for my exit.
What's interesting is that after you retired, that's when social media really started blowing up. Like
Mm.
2013, 14, that's when the Instagram, kind of like took over the
Oh,
fitness industry. And you
oh,
you
man.
retired right before that, like
Right
literally.
before that. If I would have had an Instagram, man, I would have still probably been getting it. I probably still been getting it. I would have been like Dexter. I probably would have did it until I couldn't do it no more, and then did one more show and left the game. But I didn't do that. Yeah, there wasn't no social media. We had cell phones. And we just called each other. And hey, I used to go to gym to gym to go see guys. I'd drive all the way from Orange County to Venice Beach to train every day with Charles Glass. Just to be around those guys, just to be, um, you know, listening to the information that was there. John Brown was one of the ones that told me you go listen to everything they say and write it down. What you can use, what you can't use, you discard it, throw it in the trash. You go around Sean Ray, he get to talking about what he eat, you write it on a piece of paper. He eats fish, this, how many ounces. If he gives you the information, you write it down. If you can use it, use it. Because there's gonna be a day you're gonna be standing next to that guy. And sure enough, it happened. Stood next to Sean Ray and battled him. Stood next to Kevin. Stood next to all those guys. Paul Dillette coming out. So, you know, you have to prepare yourself for the end game. And I always want to tell young guys, you got to prepare yourself. If you're not prepared, man, you're gonna be like me, struggling. You don't want to struggle when you're done, because when you stop competing, that's your last check. You know what I mean? When you stop getting away from these companies, that's your last check. There's no 401k. There's no medical dental. You have to take care of that and make sure that you're okay later. So while it's lucrative, save your money and do something with it. You got a career, keep it. Keep working.
I also feel like, so it seems like you left kind of on a bitter note from the industry, right? On a slightly, unhappy
Yeah.
with what transpired. But at the same time, I felt like the industry, and this is why I wanted to do this interview with you, because I really want to, give you praise, because you are definitely one of the best posers of all time. But it seems like the industry, as soon as you left, they stopped talking about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you
Mm.
feel that way, but it's almost like everything that you accomplished, they don't bring it up. And I feel like that should be changed. You know what I'm saying?
And with me, I get it to a point where with the sport, it's always the newest thing. Hey, who's the new guy? They're gonna push what's out, what's current. Them not talking about me doesn't make me angry or bother me. I just think it was just what they chose to do at the time. But now that their social media is out, I always encourage people, hey man, look into the past. Look at what I did, because I think what they try to do, or what the sport did, or what people in general talk about, they talk about, Melvin was the best poser of all time. He's this and that. Yeah, but I had a physique to go with it. I trained my ass off in the gym. And I used to bury people in the gym. And as far as training, anybody would tell you I trained hard. The only one that but put me in the dirt was Ronnie Coleman, because it was too damn hot in Texas.
I
So
heard I heard that story. You got put ice on you, right?
man, I thought I was gonna die. I said I thought I was gonna straight die. Give me some ice packs or something. I wouldn't hear. I wouldn't hear from that dude. They would come Melvin. I wasn't coming out. I was I was in the back. But when they stopped talking about me, they always remember me for dancing. But they never talk about the battles that I went through to be able to even pose at night. They don't talk about Melvin had a physique. Melvin walked around with a 20 and a half inch waist with 31-inch quads, 19-inch calves, 23-inch arms. They don't talk about the physique. They don't talk about the battle. And that has to be addressed. If you're going to talk about me, let's talk about all of it. Let's not talk about just the bad stuff. Let's talk about what I did for the sport. Let's talk about how I stood on stage and battled guys and beat guys that probably I shouldn't have beat, but I beat them because I outposed them. Because there is a battle and a way to address the judges when you're on stage during prejudging. That's where the fight is. That's where the points come in. And so when a person doesn't discuss that and they stop talking about me, that's cool, because they want to talk about what's relevant. But like I said, you can never know where it's going if you don't know what was in the past. If you never talk about an Ed Corney or a Serge Nabray or a guy back then that was killing people, if you don't know what they did, then you're just kind of winging it, because bodybuilding is a process. Bodybuilding is a regimen of things you have to do to look good. And if you look at the physiques that were back then, even if you go back to, let's just say, when Arnold competed, look at his body. You look at Tom Platz's legs. Look at his dense muscle. You know what changed? The training changed. These dudes don't want to pick up no weights. Me and Chris were just talking about this weekend. We were talking about, hey, what do we think about change? What change is there nobody's ever telling these guys to go grab that iron out that corner and pick it up and lift that. Yeah, machines are great. Yes, all this new equipment is great, but you have to train. So I knew how to do that and put that on stage. That's what they're not talking about. They're not talking about, hey, Melvin used to train his ass off, or me, Chris, and Charles would be going at it so bad, I go throw up, and then he come back and say, okay, you still got 10 more reps. Oh, you didn't think you was done, did you? Yeah, they don't. Some of these guys ain't going through that, So I went through that. My body on stage, it just wasn't about me just dancing and shaking my
Of
butt.
course, of course. No, no,
It
no,
was
no,
it was
no.
also I had to make that muscle dense. I had to grow that muscle, and they don't talk about that. So them to stop talking about me, nah, I don't care. I mean, the people that want to know, the guys that want to be great, they will do that research. They will find those videos of me training. They will find those videos of what I did, what I ate, and how I conducted myself. There's a reason why they say, hey, Melvin was one of the most well liked guys out there, because I didn't treat people like they were a fan. I treated them like they were my friend, because it was someone that I knew, someone that I met, that I'm gonna see over the course of my career. And I've always been told, hey, Melvin, man, you're just so nice. I was raised that way. You know, so yeah, I'm not worried about them not talking about me.
So you mentioned the new guys. You feel like they're not training as hard, meaning the actual like the regimen is not as heavy, it's not as intense.
Some of them, some of them. I mean, some of them I watch. I watch the videos, and some of them just, I think they can do more. I'm not saying they're not training hard. I'm not saying that they're not worthy of what they're getting on stage, but there's a level that they can get to that they haven't tapped into yet. And I believe that they will. Hopefully, they'll get it. Hopefully, they'll start talking to a flex wheeler, or they'll go up to J. Cole and, hey, man, how did you train? How did you, can you show me, what you did? Watch those videos, how those guys train. Yeah. And that way, they'll get the same density that they had before us. Because there's a look that they had. If you look at a surgeon's brain, look at his dense muscle. That dude trained all day long, all day. All he did is eat, sleep, and train. So it's a different look. So I'm not saying that they're not training as hard. I just think they can train harder. I think the regiments and the supplements that they're taking. Yes, it's all the same. Ain't nothing changed. You know what I mean? That stuff ain't bro. There's no better level. It's still the same stuff they took back then. But what has changed is the training. Absolutely. What has changed is what they're not caring about posing on stage. They're more worried about, my name is big. I have a million likes, and so when I get on stage, they're gonna like me because of what they read. Yes, judges are fans. Yes, judges pay attention. But if you put a guy like me with my mentality next to a guy like that, I'm gonna kill him, because he's worried about just look. I look good. No, yeah, but you got to still stand next to me, and you still haven't looked to the right or the left to find out who got what today. Because just because I was in shape at this show don't mean I'm gonna be in shape at that show or the next show. So every time you get on stage, you have to be able to pay attention. And I think that's one thing that's missing in this sport. These guys ain't paying attention.
Well, I keep hearing even Arnold Schwarzenegger said that the posing completely deteriorated in bodybuilding. I keep hearing that criticism. When do you think that happened? When do you think suddenly people stopped caring?
Mm. It could be a number of things. I mean, it could be that they don't emphasize or reward it for posing, or they don't make them battle enough because they're trying to, maybe there's so many athletes now on stage now that, yeah, you be there all day. There's 300 athletes, but there has to be make them battle, make them fight, make them show me why you're supposed to be first, because every judge has somebody that's caught their eye. So that's why you get call outs. Call this guy out over here because he's got great symmetry. Call this guy because look at that muscle, pull him out. And when they come together, you got to battle. You got to fight. That's I think that there's no incentive to make them fight. You know. So I think yeah, that might be what has changed. But it's Posing, they don't take it serious. That's one thing I can see in them. They're not taking posing serious. You know, they get on stage at nighttime. Well, my name's such and such, and I got a million hits, so they're gonna love me. Nah, you strut around on the stage and you just do whatever. You're gonna get a whatever clap. You're gonna get a golf clap. Oh, that was nice. When I came on stage, I was looking for that standing ovation and where people were so loud I can't even hear my music. I'm looking for that. Even during prejudging, I'm trying to start something. I'm trying to talk some shit to somebody. No matter who they put me next to. And if
Right.
I knew I was killing you, I was going to try to kill you here. Mentally. That's what's missing. And I think that the guys now, the new guys, they just weren't taught that. I bet you one thing. I bet you if you ask Hunter Labrada, I bet you his daddy telling him that. You get on stage, you don't take no prisoners. You kill everybody with how you move, how you stand. You keep that attention on you. I know he's telling them that. I've seen some of the videos. Man, he's being taught that. So a lot of the guys, the gurus, don't know that, so they're not telling their guys that, and they don't know how. Because some of the guys that are out there teaching, some of them never been on stage. So how can you tell me, you know what I mean? You know how to cook if you don't know how to cook. How do you do that? How does that happen? The deterioration comes with what information is handed down, and what emphasis is that new bodybuilder, or fitness, or bikini. How is she getting her information? Is she searching who was the best? Is that fitness girl looking at who was the best ever? Who was the first one to make it happen? Are they looking at a Carol Simple? They don't talk about Carol Simple. She was the first one to come and dominate. That girl will put her legs over her elbows and do push-ups. That's Carol Simple right there. You'll get a guy showing up to a show. You get a Dorian Yates walking around. These guys don't even know who he is. How can you not know that? You could put me at Disneyland, and you could put Dorian Yates on one side. You could put Lee Haney on the other side. You can put Arnold. Let's just take Arnold out because he's a superstar. You can put a Lou Ferrigno. You can put a Aaron Baker, and tell me you got an hour to find them. I guarantee I'll find every last one of them from a distance because I did my research. I know who he was, how he trained, what he ate. I know these guys. So in order for me to be great, I have to know what they knew. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't matter how your body changes. You should be able to pick Ronnie Coleman out of an amusement park. There's Ronnie Coleman right there, and spot him from the back, not facing me. You put him from the back, I can tell you where he's at. This is what's missing.
How do you feel about women's bodybuilding?
Women's bodybuilding, I think women bodybuilding, sometimes they get a bad rap. I enjoy watching muscle. You know, Irish Cow is like my sister, man. It's like, how do you not know who she is? You know, even the females bodybuilders. I would just wish that there was more camaraderie. I wish these people talked to each other. Because there wouldn't be no bikini uh, fitness, wellness. There wouldn't be none of this without the female bodybuilders. What are you talking about? So why wouldn't you have the respect enough to know, hey, that's such and such. Hey, how are you, girl? Hey, because we started it. Men's physique and all that came from bodybuilding. How is it you a physique guy and you don't know who I am? Just because I have a beard on, you should know my face. You should know me. You should know who's come before you. You should know who a John Brown is. You should know who a Mike Christian is. If Sean Ray walked by, you supposed to know who that is. How do you not know that? Oh, I just started bodybuilding. Okay, well, great. So here's YouTube. I want you to look up Sean Ray. I want you to go over and look at Dennis. I want you to go and look at Phil Heath. I want you to go all the way back. See this picture of Ed Corney? See this Franco Colombo? You got to know who these guys are because these are the great ones. In order for you to be great, you got to know what looks great. Not by I'm just in competition with myself. Well, I won't say that's a fool. That's just somebody who doesn't pay attention. You got to pay attention. You want to be great. And if you're complacent, oh, I'm just so humbled to get fifth place. Why? Didn't you go to the show to win? That's another thing I noticed. I heard conversations this weekend when I was at Chris Cormier's show. I was listening. I'm just like, you happy to get sixth? Hell no. You got to be happy when you win. These guys are not happy. They're happy just placing. Nah, bodybuilding is last man standing. That's what's missing. Hopefully we get it back. And that's why I'm trying to get myself back even more in the sport because I'm teaching it. Nah, we don't go in shows to lose. We go in shows to kill everybody.
I like that mindset because a lot of people don't even talk like that anymore. The way you talking right now.
I think I'm gonna die that way. But if you go and talk to some of the older guys, they'll tell you, yeah, ask Vic. Victor Martinez, shoot, I'm coming to kill everybody. He's subtle. He don't talk much. I'm a talker. I'm gonna tell you, okay, when I get on stage, I'm gonna get you. And they be thinking I'm playing. And when I'm in the gym, yeah, I gotta get such and such. Yeah, I gotta kill Vic. Oh yeah, Dex come. I gotta get him. I gotta get in there. I gotta rule. When I'm training, that's what I'm thinking. That's how you're supposed to train. You're supposed to train knowing who's coming. But also, my main concern was John Brown was the first one to tell me this. When you train for the guy you never saw, and when you see him, you're gonna know who it is. Well, nobody knowing about nothing about no Marcus Rule because we didn't have the internet. And when he showed up, you're like, who the hell is that? That's the guy you got to fight.
That's a good point. Back then,
Right?
you had no idea. Yeah.
We didn't have no internet. Nobody put no movie up. We got the videos after the fact, the videotapes. Mitsuru Okabe, we got that later. So me coming through, we had to look for the guy we haven't seen. Guy come from Texas, we ain't seen yet. The only people I can deal with are people in California. Guys that are coming in from Arizona, all these other places. When they showed up, we see the day of the show, but you have to be ready for them. You can't get ready for a guy if you see him every day because you already know what he's coming with. It's that guy that's doing walking lunges with tree trunks in Sweden somewhere that you better watch, right? Those are the guys you got to be ready for. Akeem Albright and all them guys. Come on, man. Those guys showed up. You're like, oh my god. Ooh, I don't know what I'm okay. We gonna have to fight today because if you did your work and you left it all there on the table, all the stones overturned. Okay, and let's battle. We'll see who's standing last. Now it comes to the battle on prejudging stage. You gonna have to kill me to get me off of here. Yes, I took the same diuretics. I ain't drunk no water since yesterday either. But I'm gonna have to die. You gonna have to kill me up here to get my money. You gonna have to take me all the way out the box. I'm gonna have to leave on a gurney. And that goes for male and female. You have to have that mentality. If you don't, then
Since you've retired, they've added men's physique division, 212, and men's classic division as well. Do you think, and also a bunch of women divisions as well. Do you think that's good for fitness industry to have, different basically categories?
categories, yeah. I think it's wonderful to have give everybody the opportunity to compete, no matter what it is. I mean, it's more modeling, but you still got to get in shape. You still got to do cardio. You still got to get on a diet, and most of them still doing stuff too. You take stuff, so you might as well get up there and enjoy a win. There's still a competition, no matter what you do or what you say. I think categories are okay. But me, it gives somebody some people that maybe don't have the genetics to be a 300-pound guy can get in a physique and do well because he already has that natural, nice face. You know what I mean? Hair all done good. He's in good condition and he looks good in shorts. You know, they ain't got to squat too much. You know what I mean? Because they got on shorts to cover it up. And I just feel that hey, every category it gives the sport more of a draw for people to come to be entertained.
Did you do a lot of
Some,
cardio when you used to compete?
yeah, I did my cardio. I wasn't a Dexter Jackson guy. Dexter didn't start doing cardio until he was in his 30s. I think I used to think he was lying. He never used to do cardio. He had a natural gift to get in shape. That conditioning, his metabolism was really high, but I had to do cardio. Yeah, I had to. I started my cardio sometimes, 15 weeks out.
Kevin
You
Levrone
know.
told me he did twice a day, 2 sessions a day in cardio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was a beast, man. Kevin wasn't no joke, man. That dude was a specimen. You
Yeah.
know.
So, Melvin, I got to ask you about what happened after you retired, right? So you ended up going to prison.
Hmm.
For those, I mean, it's public knowledge, obviously, but
Everybody knows about that.
can you tell me like what happened? And obviously you came back home last year, right?
No, I've been out since 19.
Oh, 2019. Okay, okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been home.
So for those who don't have enough information, what can you tell me about that?
Well, it basically was a situation with marijuana, and Mississippi don't play with marijuana. And so everybody, it's public information. They consider anything that you do above a certain amount, they just call it trafficking. But in the law, in the lawful terms, you have to transport something from one place to another place to have a trafficking charge. So they eventually changed that to delivery of a controlled substance, so of marijuana. So that's what happened. That's what gave me all the time. Mississippi don't play that. California, hey, I'm thinking in my mind, it's just the same as anywhere else. Everybody smokes. So yeah, That's where the problem came in, and that's what sent me to prison. So, with a lot of people that said, this heroin and all this other stuff, and talking about these crazy, I don't know, people just made up their own stories. It just seemed like, but yeah, I ended up doing my time and served my time and came home and trying to move forward in my life. But yeah, that's why I went to prison for marijuana.
That's crazy, and especially now because all the laws are changing. It's being legalized.
Uh huh. They
Pretty much
decriminalized it.
every state is going to be decriminalized pretty much
Even
soon.
Mississippi, they changed it. Yeah, it's the you can get a prescription now for it, which is retarded. But they got a chance to get a California guy. Oh, he's from California. Oh my God! And my name made it even worse. They're like, oh yeah, we don't want him coming over here, and let's make an example. And that's what they did. So that's what happened. So they were talking about like people like to make their videos or whatever. That kind of is what people do. Bad news is still news. And I guess maybe because they thought that I was going to be gone for 100 years, that people are going to say what they're going to say. But they're not saying it now. And it's not a big deal. And like I said, I take responsibility for the things that I've done, and I don't expect people to follow what I did. Learn from it. That a smart man would learn from a mistake and not follow.
Hmm. Now, a couple of guys. I don't want to say their names. I mean, you can say their names if you want, but they made videos basically when I guess back a few years ago when I guess they announced the prison thing came out. Basically, they made a couple of videos calling you wasted talent, saying they were trying to help you get you on the right path, and basically making you look like you were just a guy that wanted to get on the crime. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of video narrative that they put together. I'm sure you know who those people are, but when you, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't understand why they called you wasted talent because you've accomplished so much in bodybuilding. So I didn't understand the whole wasted talent part.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
so when you saw those
Uh,
videos, how did it make you feel? Did you like? Do you feel like that your friends turn their backs on you, or what do you think it
that's
was?
exactly how I felt, and and I feel that way to this day. But I don't hate the guys that said it and that did the videos. There, to me, it was a person is supposed to, you would think, find out, because the person that did the video knew exactly where I was going because I told him before I went. So, if you wanted to know how I was doing or what I was doing or where I was at, you could have sent a letter because it's public information. You get just like you got the information of the charges, you should have got the information of clarifying what the charges were by asking me. And the worst thing about that was my mother seen it first. Who knows these people well. So how does that make my mother feel? And I take responsibility for doing it. I did enough to my mother and my family. But I had a phone when I was in prison. I had two of them. So, yeah, I watched it. And I just feel that you thought that I was going to do 50 some years. And so, you can just say what you want without repercussion. No, oh, you're just going to say what I want. Well, raise the talent, how? So when I look at, that situation, it's tough for me to talk about stuff like that. But I'm no in my whole entire career, I was always an open book and transparent. So, nobody said nothing when he was in trouble. You know what I mean? And I didn't make no video. So when you make a video and say waste of talent how? How did I waste it? Because I'm not doing what you wanted me to do, or I'm not traveling around. I traveled with you those times and you tried to help me, but I was already in trouble. So when you're in trouble, I don't want to just disappear and be like, well, where did Melvin go? And then find out, oh, Melvin went to prison. That would look even worse to do a tour when you know you're in trouble. That's disrespectful to the fans. It's disrespectful to my friends. It's disrespectful to everyone. So I did what I had to do, and I tried to do it quietly. Because I knew what was going on. So I went ahead and I went to the Mr. Olympia the last time. Went in 16. Jim May didn't know where I was going. I didn't tell him. I went and hugged on his neck, told him I loved him. I went and hugged Steve Weinberger, told him I loved him. I hugged on and took as many pictures as I could because I knew where I was going. I didn't put that out there. If I wanted it out there, I would have put it out there. I didn't need no victim and say, "Oh my God, playing the victim." And no, nah, I did with it, so I'm gonna go, serve my time. So wasted talent how? I wasn't wasting talent when I was beating you up on stage. How did I waste my talent? I did what I was supposed to do, and I never did that to disrespect the sport. My personal problem should have stayed personal. You know what I mean? But you made a spectacle out of it, so now that it's out, you want to talk about it, you should have called me. Should have sent me a letter. Both of those guys, you're supposed to be my friends, so friends call each other. Friends see how people are, not get mad at him. So I'm not talking to him no more because he got in trouble. That's stupid. Because when you got in trouble, I came to your aid. What are you talking about? So that's it's a touchy subject, but I'm okay with it now. I've made peace with it. You know what I mean? It's out there now, so whatever.
Did any of the guys support you, or whether it's conversation or just kind of looked out for you while you were away? Anybody that stands out to you that you actually?
Yeah, Kevin LeBron. I spoke to Kevin LeBron. I spoke to Ronnie. I had, like I said, I had a phone in there, so I talked to guys. Yeah, spoke to Chris Cormier. No one, none of those guys judged me. They're like, hey man, are you getting out of there? I was like, you'll see, because I didn't want those guys to know what I was coming home. I just let them talk because that showed me something. I learned something from that. I learned that hey, everybody's not your friend. You can be their friends, but sometimes they're not your friend, and that's okay. You know what I mean? What am I gonna do? Make him be my friend? No. You have to take responsibility for what you said, just like I took responsibility for what I did. And if you don't want to, that's okay. But your fans gonna look at you funny. You've seen all the flack that he got from that. Go read the commentators. Read what they said about that. It's okay. You know. But yeah, Kevin LeBron, I talked to him a couple of times. Man, if you need anything, you send you money. Nah, I'm okay. That's one thing I did. I have money on the side. I'm okay. You know what I mean? He's like, man, you coming home? And I told Kevin, I was like, yeah, I'm coming home soon. And don't say nothing. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, man, let me loose, man. I came in here, did what I had to do. So let me live my life now. You know, and it didn't stop me from helping people. It didn't stop me from doing online training. It didn't stop me from people wanting to talk to me, say hi to me, and treat me like I never left. There was not been one disrespectful thing been said since I've been out. Because people aren't worried about it. They're like worried about what are you doing now? Are you okay? I came out of there, people were dying all around me. You know what I mean? That's that place. Nobody asked me how it was in there. Man, shoot, it ain't built for everybody. But I made it through that situation. I spoke to Jimmy not too long ago. Jimmy was like, man, Melvin, if you would have talked to me before, I would have brought you down here. Nah, man, I lost my mind a little bit. You know what I mean? It happens. Everybody gonna come to that realization of there's a fork in the road at some point, and you got to make the choice to go left, or make the choice to go right. I made the choice to go left, and I should have went right. You know, so you know, it is what it is.
What advice? What is the biggest advice you would give to somebody who might be in the same position as you, like after bodybuilding, maybe not fully set up yet, but like, what's the, you know what I mean? Like, what's the right approach to find life after bodybuilding, and really go in the right direction? You know what I mean?
Um, I just think that everybody has to in bodybuilding get your money, make as much money as you can, enjoy the ride, but always get ready for the end game. Save up for your 401k. You know what I'm talking about? Put money away, put it in stocks, whatever you got to do. Start a business. Start on your vitamin companies. Do it before you stop competing. Don't be like me and wait till the last minute. Now, that's the advice I want to give to everybody. You got to be smart. Because it's still lucrative. It's still money to be made, and it's not about trying to just you know compete forever because nothing is forever. Everything, the only thing you can depend on happening is change.
What are your plans for the near future? I know you're doing stuff right now in the fitness industry. Do you want to be a coach more? Do you want to run shows? Do you want to run different platforms for fitness? Like, what kind of stuff do you want to get into right now?
I'm throwing things around now. I'm trying to learn. But I would love to have a show. I think it would be good for the sport. To be able to, probably won't be in California because there's too many out here. There's too many shows out here.
Maybe
But
you can bring the Iron Man back.
yeah, that would be cool, man. Just to to have that show, man. I would love to run an Ironman. But yeah, I'm learning. Me and Chris Cormier have been talking, about throwing things around to be able to to just up my level on giving back and doing something that has something to do with bodybuilding. Yeah, Melvin's back for sure.
Absolutely. Was it a difficult adjustment to the whole social media era right now that's going on? Do you like social media? Do you like what's happening on social? Because a lot of comments back and forth. I'm sure a lot of haters on there talking. Everybody has an opinion. Like, how do you feel about that era?
Everybody got to, yeah, everybody gonna have an opinion. Social media is hard to deal with because I'm not real tech savvy. People are gonna say what they say. You're always gonna have trolls. People are always gonna have something bad to say, and I've just learned to let people have their opinion. It's not gonna stop me eating. It's not gonna stop what I'm going to give back to the sport. Nothing's gonna stop that, no matter what people say. So I think that the better I get, at the social media, I think I'll be able to do more as far as giving back.
Last thing I want to ask you is, how did you feel about Big Ramy winning? Have you been following the Olympia last year?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Big Ramy winning, and what do you feel like is going to be the future of Mr. Olympia going forward?
Hmm. The future, nobody really knows the future. Big Ramy's a good dude, man. That is one of the most humble guys I think I've ever met. That guy, when I met him, he's Melvin, and I laughed at him. He was like, "Why are you laughing?" I was like, "Man, big as you is, you ain't gotta." He's a humble guy. That guy, he's a big teddy bear. I like Ramy. Yeah, when he won, what can you say about that? You could have flipped those places around, and nobody's gonna complain because the top five guys are in really, really good shape. They had a little bit of everything. Ramy just had a combination of everything on that day and put it together right, and he came out on top. Had a lot of muscle. He was dense. He was conditioned. He wasn't having no waist wasn't sticking out nowhere. He had good taper. And what can you say about that guy? He overpowered everybody. Turned around, glutes was in, tines was in, shredded glutes. I mean, he wasn't missing anything. So yeah, I'm cool with that. Mr. Olympia, Mr. Olympia.
Do you feel like there was going to be, because Ramy is big, right? Like if you look at your era, you got Ronnie Coleman, who was the biggest, right? Or at least, well, Marcus Fool was huge too. Paul Dillette was huge, right? But like right now, Ramy is so big. So for a smaller guy to beat Ramy is going to be challenging, unless Ramy is off and they come in super conditioned.
And they're gonna have to outpose him. You know what I mean? They're gonna have to be able to present better. They're gonna have to make things happen when he moves. As long as Ramy, I keep saying Ramy stays on his game. He comes in with great condition and he doesn't get too far out there, making his waist get blocky or anything like that. He should be okay. He should better win a few. If he tries to maybe put on more size and it starts to distort his symmetry, he gonna get his he can lose it. Because once a thing I know about history, um, the Mr. Olympias are hard to knock off the hill. They have to be off. Like they got to be because you're not gonna if they're a little bit off, that doesn't mean they're gonna lose. So you have to knock them out in order to get that position. You got to knock them out. There's no if it's close, it's gonna be Ramy. But if a guy dominates Ramy, it doesn't have to just be with size. It could just be with his shape and symmetry. It could be with a combination of his muscle density and fullness. And if a shredded flex wheeler goes up there with that physique like that, he's going to beat Ramy because Ramy gets an apple and an orange. They got two different physiques. Ramy has a combination of everything for right now. So the question is he going to be able to repeat that same physique or make it better, bigger, more round, with better shape and symmetry without distorting it? Can he do that? That's the question that should be asked. It's real challenging, and I'm glad I ain't got to do it.
Absolutely, Melvin. Thank you so much, man. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I'm a big fan of yours, and
Thank you.
I want to make sure that people go and watch your posing routines and your battles on stage, man. Because you definitely forget about the poser. You're definitely one of the best bodybuilders out there.
I appreciate that, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
man. I
Yeah.
mean, much respect for you, man. And I want people to really learn about your story as much as possible.
Oh yeah. If they want to contact me, just go on Instagram. Melvin Anthony Jr. You can DM me. I'm still training people, still teaching people how to battle. How to pose and and create. And this is what I'm doing for right now. So I'm here. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Melvin. Great pleasure,
All
man.
right. Peace out.
Take care, man. Thank you.